Ross King, thank you so much for inviting us here to your beautiful home in the Hollywood Hills.
There we are. That's what council houses get you out here. It's great, isn't it? Put my name down, and I was third on the list. The first two got really big mansions, and I got this little kind of button Ben, but I'm still happy.
This little button, and we're up in the Hollywood Hills, and the Hollywood sign is across the way here. So as we listen to all the Hollywood going around.
That's right. The helicopters coming in, of course, as they always do, just as you go to speak. That's the,
What's that,
the
James?
paparazzi. That's the paparazzi,
That's the
trying to get a
paparazzi.
quick look. There we go. Give them a wave. Yeah. Nothing today.
Well, look, I'm very interested in talking to you because usually you're the one interviewing people, and now you're being interviewed today.
It's terrifying.
Well,
I hate it.
IrishETV is very excited to talk to you.
Oh, thank you, Brigid.
And so, how does a little Glasgow boy
Yes.
from what part of Glasgow are you from?
From Knightswood. So from Knightswood to Hollywood. It's
From
ridiculous.
Knightswood to Hollywood. Well, they're both woods.
Yeah, they
There
are,
was a little
exactly.
bit. So,
It's a bit like my acting, really. That's what's followed me my whole career. My acting's wooden, the place I grew up was wooden, and here I am in Hollywood.
now, come on, that's hilarious. So tell us a little bit about your background. You started off in very, very young. You were in you grew up in Glasgow.
In Glasgow itself, yeah, and at school, it was the usual stuff that I always knew that I loved performing. Mum and Dad were very musical, and it was kind of obvious that I would follow some kind of musical or some performance, but not professionally. Because I remember Mum and Dad when I said, you know, I'd really like to go into show business, and they said, but we don't know Coco the Clown, so there's no way for you to go forward. And so I was going to be a footballer. That was it, because that was a kind of obvious one as well. You know, again, you know, a lot of boys from Glasgow, that's your way to, you know, get out of the States sort of thing. And so that was what it was going to be. And Partick Thistle was going to be my team, or Partick Thistle nil, to give them their full title, as Billy Connolly always said. You know, Rangers 3, Partick Thistle nil, Celtic 3, Partick Thistle nil. So that was going to be the idea, and then I was going to be a very average footballer, and I thought, you know what, I'd rather become a very average TV host and actor. So that was what happened. It was local radio. Local radio is where I started.
Right. Well, I mean, the football. I mean, that's a little boy's dream. I mean, that in itself is quite an achievement to start off like that. So, did you actually play for them?
Well, funnily enough, I was going to sign for them as a schoolboy, as a professional, and then just about a year ago, I actually did sign for them professionally, which was just one of the best moments of my life. And I signed professional forms, and I went back, and it was the last game of the season, and I went into the dressing room, and all the guys were there, and there was one young guy having his debut, and I was actually, because I had signed for them officially, I mean, I was on the subs, and this young boy, and they said, do you know when he was born? And I was like, no, when? They went 2000.
Oh God.
Exactly, and I thought, my boots genuinely are older than he is.
Oh my God.
So I thought, you know what? I'll just look like his dad. So I'll just sit in the director's box and wave, and that's what I did. But it was a really lovely moment for me to go back to Glasgow and back to my old team that I've loved.
And was that just recently?
That was, just last year.
Ah, that's
so
lovely.
yeah, so I was very lucky.
So you got into television and radio. You started off, I think I saw that you started on radio at the age of 15.
That's right, hospital radio. I know. I went into hospital radio when I was 15, little station that broadcast to all the hospitals in Glasgow. And then while I was there, I discovered that Radio Clyde, which is the big station, always had a Saturday boy. This kid who went in and made the teas, the coffees, photocopied the scripts, did everything. And really, the studio factotum. And I thought, that'll do for me. My £10 on a Saturday to go and do all that. And that's what I did. And that was such a great, training ground. And that was it. That really was what then propelled me into all full time, because I was just lucky that I got into local radio when it was kind of wham time, and I was this young kid with long blonde hair, and they were a bit like, put the kid in the road shows, and that's what I did, and was lucky that I got a show when I was so young. And because of the radio, then the TV came along, and I also had an idea to go to the Royal Academy in Glasgow as well. But then all my friends said, look, you're at the radio station now, you'll get breaks and things from that. And that's what happened.
And the Royal Academy would have been to act?
To do more acting,
Right,
yeah. But of
yeah.
course, the great thing was because I got a little bit of a name
Right.
with the radio and then with the TV stuff. So I got a lot of acting stuff from that.
Fabulous.
So
Wow.
really fortunate.
And then you fell into television.
I did TV again when I was
Yeah.
really young, but that's what I always wanted to do.
Yeah.
I mean, along with the acting and the performing, but TV was always a big thing for me.
Right.
And I was so lucky. There was a kids' TV show that they'd never done before in Britain, in the BBC in Glasgow, called CTV1. It was over the summer holidays. It was a live TV show. And it was just everything that I wanted it to be, because it was a mixture of, you know, cartoons and
Right.
pop guests and
So you were
chat.
nearly a child yourself, though. You were very
I was nearly a
young.
child myself, exactly. So yeah, so that was great fun.
That's fantastic. And so you're pretty seasoned, you could say. You're
I'm
pretty
more
seasoned.
seasoned than a turkey at Thanksgiving
Ah,
here.
God. So you have been you've worked with so many people, so many fabulously big television companies.
Been lucky.
I want to talk to you about your KTLA experience.
Oh yeah. So that was great.
Tell us about that.
So KTLA, for people who obviously won't know, it's a big station here in Los Angeles. And a friend came to me and said, and I'd moved here in 2000, this was about 2002, and I'd been doing some little movies, and they came to me and said, look, KTLA are looking for a weather person. And I said, oh great, well done, good.
Yeah.
And they said, would you not like the idea of it? And I said, well, no, I know nothing about the weather. It's not what I do. And they said, but you know, David Letterman was a weatherman and all these people. And I said, well, I thought, you know what? And then they told me they were going to do it like a competition.
Right.
They were going to do it on air and you were going to see who was auditioning. And I thought, you know what, maybe this might be quite fun. I'll send in my tape, they'll see me, and they'll maybe think when it comes to Burns Night or, you know, Tartan Day or something.
Yeah, the Scottish
they'll,
accent.
they'll bring me in for that. And I never gave it a thought that I would actually go in for the competition, which I did. And there was, I don't know, thousands of people that sent their stuff in. And then I kept getting through, and then I won.
I remember watching you on KTLA and thinking, oh, they have a Scottish man on there. That's so exciting. It is unusual.
It was really unusual.
Yeah.
And I think what was interesting from the station's point of view, because they said to me, if they hadn't run it like a competition and they didn't have the public here voting,
Right.
they probably would never have hired me, because they would have thought somebody with an accent, you know, again, a Scot doing the weather in LA, it's just ridiculous.
Well, it's trying to understand the accent.
Exactly. I always thought, it's here to go.
Yeah.
But it was funny because I think one of my first forecasts, I just walked out and said, you live in Southern California, the weather's beautiful, get used to it, get over it. That's all, folks. And they put "that's all, folks" up in the,
Oh,
in the
that's
screen.
right. I remember.
So,
Now, did you have any experience as a meteorologist?
none whatsoever. None whatsoever.
Perfect.
None
Ah,
whatsoever.
sure, why not?
But I read up Dummy. It was funny, one of the shots they had of me one day was this picture of me holding the book, which was Weather for Dummies, you know, 101. And but I learned a lot from it, and I actually learned a lot from kids' books too.
Right.
But of course, the great thing here in LA is, you know, you see it all the time.
Yeah.
Bridget. There's really nothing to it other than it will be, you know, there might be a marine layer in the morning, it'll burn off by the afternoon, and then we're all
And then-
happy and sunny.
It's off for coffee.
Exactly.
You ended up as their entertainment person.
Yeah, because when I joined them, again, as we were saying that, so they offered me this 4-week contract, and then they were really lovely at the time, and they said, how about a 5-year contract? And I said, look, can we just do 4 weeks? I don't know how on earth I had the cojones as big then as I
gall.
did. The gall, exactly. I had the galls. I didn't realise I had the galls to do it, which was that I said, I'll just do it for 4 weeks and then we'll see how we go. And because I don't really know if I really want to do the weather.
Yeah.
And then they, of course, then knew of my background then. They said, well, look, you know, why don't you do this for a bit? And then there may be a vacancy as the entertainment anchor, which happened after 6 months. But then the funniest thing was I said, I'll tell you what, yes, I'll become your entertainment anchor, but I want to be your weather anchor for another 6 months too. So I did both just because I wanted that experience and to say, I did it for a year.
And it wasn't so bad doing the weather.
No, it was great fun, exactly.
It's
Here
great.
we are, there it is, that's it. Good night.
Good night. That's really, that's the weather. I mean, that's just fantastic to start off with the weather and then to be who you are today.
Yeah.
You've interviewed, my goodness, how many interviews do you think you've done in your life?
Oh my goodness.
I
me.
know, it's a
Well,
big
you go way.
question.
Well, I mean, I go way back to CTV1, the first kid show that I ever did, and then through that, through the radio, then doing Pebble Mill for 6 years at the BBC, then doing kid shows at the BBC, then doing shows at ITV. I don't know, you know what, one day maybe I'll try and work it out, but it's definitely thousands.
It's in the thousands.
It is in the thousands, yeah.
I mean, you've interviewed absolutely everybody from Britney Spears through to Dolly Parton.
Yeah.
I mean, has there been I mean, it's very hard to choose, but I mean, you really have interviewed everybody.
Yeah, I know. It's just as you said that there, I
Yeah.
was thinking, no, you know, it's funny. There's no one really that I can think of that I haven't yet interviewed. No, I mean, it's so ridiculous when I say that, and it sounds almost just a little bit passé that I go,
No, but
I
it's
don't
quite
know.
exciting. I mean, it's really, it's such an achievement.
It is.
For one person. I mean,
for one
it's
little
just-
person.
For one little Scottish guy from Glasgow. I mean, it's pretty darn amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing when I think back, and
Yeah.
again, when people do mention names. But I think, you know, when you're sitting across from people like Dolly Parton or Barbara Streisand was one that I hadn't interviewed until last year, and she was just, you know, again, up there because that was someone that I'd fallen in love with when I watched A Star Is Born as a school kid. I remember going to the movies to see that film and just going, oh my goodness me. So when I sat across from her, that was that moment when you sit there and, you know, part of you is, you know, you're sitting, you've got the cameras around you and you're thinking you're going to be quite professional, and then the next minute you look at it and you go, oh my goodness me, it's Barbara Streisand. It's Barbara Streisand, and this is the woman. And then when you try and explain that, and then you sound so ridiculous when you try and explain to her that I was this kid that fell in love with you.
So you've met Charlie Chaplin. Tell me about that.
It's the weirdest thing in the world when people say, who's the most famous person you've ever met? And it goes way back to Nairn up in Scotland. And Charlie Chaplin, when he was a boy, or when he was a young man, loved golf. And he would always go and play all the golf courses, St Andrews and Nairn. And I was told about this, and I was there on holiday, and I was about 5. And Mum and Dad were there, and people went, that's Charlie Chaplin.
Wow.
And of course you were like, you know, you're like this kid going, really? And then one night, just as dusk, that beautiful Scottish dusk, and we went down by the beach, and there was this old man in the big coat and the hat, and my Mum and Dad said, that's Charlie Chaplin.
He didn't have a stick, did he?
He didn't, that was so disappointing for a kid. Where's the moustache and the little bowler and all that? So I went over and I shook hands, and, you know, Mr. Chaplin, and it was incredible. And then years later, when I started collecting memorabilia, I said to my mum, I never got Charlie Chaplin's autograph. And she said, Aunt Betty got it in the Glasgow Empire, 19-something, 30-something, and she's got his autograph in pencil, and she's got it in the sideboard. It's just brilliant. So she pulled up in the sideboard, there it was. So I got Charlie's autograph as well. So
Is that your most prized possession? Because I know you're a memorabilia
Oh,
collector.
yeah. Yeah, I think that probably is, because it's
Yeah.
such a lovely mememory, and it's a wonderful memory of Mum and Dad and my sister and I in Nairn at the time.
Yeah.
So it's just and again, Charlie Chaplin. I mean, there'll never be another, and I'll never meet another like Charlie Chaplin.
Well, you are a collector of Emmys as well.
That's right, I buy them on eBay. I've got 4 Emmys on eBay, which is great, and you get them for reasonable prices, and then you just take them to the engravers, and then you get them to put your name on them.
Oh,
It's great.
stop.
Try it at home. It's a great thing.
That's so funny. So what were the Emmys for?
So my news Emmys out here I got for the morning show that I did at KTLA. I got it for the evening show that I did. I got it for the Hollywood Christmas Parade. I got it, sadly, in many respects, for the death of Michael Jackson, because I was the first person on air here on TV to actually announce that the King of Pop had passed. So that was a very strange one. So it's a very strange thing having a news Emmy for the coverage of that. It was such a strange day. Right. So yeah, Daft Boy's got 4 news Emmys and a cycling proficiency badge, Duke of Edinburgh Bronze Award. So I mean, they're all up there. I mean,
wow. So you literally are collecting.
Oh, I'm collecting awards, absolutely.
And you have a golden mic. What was
that?
A
golden mic. That was for News at 10 as well. I was so lucky. There was a guy here called Hal Fishman, who was the main news anchor. He was just the loveliest of men and a real mentor, and probably one of the most erudite men that I've ever met. In fact, he taught me the word erudite. I didn't realise it was erudite until I said, "What are you?"
What is that?
Just very bright, clever, sharp, intelligent.
Oh, well, I wouldn't know that.
So there we are.
Well,
So now you know. There we are. Pass that one on.
And so I want to talk to you about charity work. You do charity work as well, don't you?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I try to help out as many different charities as I can.
Yeah.
Dad was in the Salvation Army, so I still you know, help with the Salvation Army whenever I can, because that was very close to my heart. And Mum was in the church, not in Salvation Army, so, you know, help out there. Sadly, Mum and Dad both passed from Alzheimer's, so I'll help with, you know, Alzheimer's and dementia. Cinemagic, it's this wonderful charity that, as we said, started in Belfast, also works out here now. And it brings children from either disadvantaged homes or maybe they've got some learning disabilities, puts them into the world of movies. And it's amazing. Sometimes people go, I really don't get how this works. And when you see a little kid and you've got a group together and then you say, you're going to be the director, and suddenly by the end of the week, this person has come out their shell like a completely different person. So it's a wonderful charity to get involved with, and obviously, you know, back to Ireland. So it's, so I'm really fortunate. Again, you know, it's like anything. You just want to give back a little bit because, you know, I've been so fortunate.
So tell me a little bit about your background. You're Irish. You've got Irish blood in you.
Yeah, gran and granddad on my dad's side. I used to think they were from Bangor County Down, so I could do the accent like that. But there was also, they came out of Coleraine originally.
And of course, you were an author as well.
Yeah, I mean, that came about as a real shock. It's funny, Jeremy Beadle, who was a great mentor to me many years ago, people remember from Game for a Laugh, and Jeremy always had this reputation for being the baddie and was just one of the goodies in life, just one of the nicest men you could ever meet. And he always said to me, Ross, write everything down, because one day you'll do a book. And funnily enough, a girl, Shari Lowe, who's a great author based out of Glasgow, and she came to me and she said, I'd like to ghostwrite your biography. And I said, well, it's a leaflet. It's a pamphlet that we'll hand out. So I said no. And then I said, but what about if we wrote together and we could write a book about Hollywood that will involve some things that maybe happened to me, maybe didn't happen to me. And I already had a bit of an idea of a plot in my head. And amazingly enough, we got signed to Macmillan, and we did the first book, Taking Hollywood, which came out and got to #1 in crime and #4 in Amazon. And then we brought the second book out as well.
#1 in crime?
Yeah, in crime, because it's very dark.
It was a dark novel?
Oh, it's a very dark, it's very raunchy, but it's also very dark.
Wow.
But it's fun as well, so there's a bit of everything. I mean, we basically, Jackie Collins was one of my absolute heroes, and she was so giving when it came to the book. And Sidney Sheldon was another person that I'd always admired. So it was kind of in their vein, but just a little bit different. So yeah, so incredibly enough, we've done that, and hopefully there's going to be a TV series of the books. We'll see what happens.
And talking about Jackie Collins, your wedding.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, I'm sorry, I have to keep going back to Glasgow, and now you're in Hollywood, having your wedding filmed and by Hello Magazine.
Yeah.
And
the big issue were busy that week. They passed.
Hello Magazine covered your wedding.
Yeah.
You have it in Beverly Hills. You have a star-studded. I mean, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Jackie Collins was there.
I know.
So what was your background with her? How did you meet her?
Jackie I'd met many times, a couple of times in the UK before I came here.
Right.
Then when I came out here, I interviewed her a couple of times. And when I joined KTLA, she was one of the first. She wrote me. And again, it's that thing nowadays, you know, no one, you get handwritten notes.
Yeah.
Handwritten note from Jackie saying, welcome to LA, all the rest of it, which was just, and I've still got that. And then I said to her one time, we were out for dinner, and she said, so what are you doing? And I said, I'm still doing my radio and TV and acting and writing a book. And she said, sorry? I went, writing a book. And she said, sorry, did you just go, writing a book? And I said, I did. And I was almost kind of ashamed to say that, you know, I'm trying to get into your world.
Right.
And she was so unbelievable and just so lovely and so encouraging, and was the very first person to read the first book, Taking Hollywood. Wow. No one else read it apart from Shari and myself. She was the first one, and she gave us a lovely critique. She gave us a lovely message for the front cover of the book. Wow. She just couldn't have been any better. Lovely, lovely lady who I really miss every day.
I want to ask you a kind of a personal question. You really have done such an exorbitant amount of things in your life so far. What is the driving force?
I mean, it genuinely is. Every day I have a laugh. And even when there's been, obviously, sadness, as everyone has in their lives, I still have a laugh every single day, and that's it. And I just get up and that old thing of, you know, treat each day as if it would be your last, because one day you'll be right. So there's that. And I think there is that thing of, you know, again, you look round and I do think, you know, I am a daft boy from Glasgow, and how I ended up here and how I ended up doing, you know, a few, you know, funny movies and books and radio and TV and voiceovers and blah, blah, blah. you know, it's amazing. But I do really appreciate it. And every single day I get up, I look at, I see that Hollywood sign, I do smirk, you know, and laugh to myself and think, what, who'd have thought? And that's it. It's just the enjoyment of life. And that's definitely the simple thing, is just, you know, my mum always said, just do your best, son. That's all you can do. And that's what I've tried to do every day. I just do my best, but have a laugh as well, because life's too serious.